So today we're going to look at independent variables versus dependent variables, but we're going to do it in math. At the beginning of the year, we did this with science, kind of the same idea here. So when we talk about independent variables, we're talking about the ones that we can manipulate. We can change them. When we talk about dependent variables, we're talking about the ones that are changed because of the independent. So you can think of this as cause and effect. The change in the independent variable causes change in the dependent variable. So again, cause, effect. So when we talk about the independent variable, x is always the independent variable, that x value, I should say, because you can use other variables and we'll get to that later, but it's the x value. And the dependent variable is always your y value. In elementary, you would have done input-output tables. Same idea here. Earlier this year, we did ratio tables and graphs. This is it again, where we're looking at those ratios and how we can graph them, or just have some extra vocabulary with it now. Let's look at some scenarios. So the number of cucumbers I have will determine the number of pickles I can make. The number of students that attended the dance will determine how many will be photographed. The number of meals I prepare will determine how many people I can serve. So on the left side, independent, depending on what I have going on there, will determine the right side, what's going to happen. So again, cause, effect. So let's look at this example. I have a scoop of ice cream and it costs $2. So we have to determine what's going to be my independent variable and what's going to be my dependent. So my independent, the thing I can change is the amount of ice cream I'm going to buy, the number of servings. I can't change the cost. So the number of ice cream scoops I buy, that would be my independent variable because that's the one I can manipulate. Where the cost would be my dependent because I don't get to change that. So looking at this ratio table, remember they can go horizontal or vertical. Your x value is always first and the y is second. So the number of servings, if I have no servings, then I'm paying nothing. Let's say I have 3 servings. Well, they cost $2 each, so 3 times 2 would be 6. So what I put in is what I get out, and so on. Remember, I can graph them. So here's my x values and my y values. This, when you think of coordinates, this is the first value, x, second, y. Not only are they always x and y used here, sometimes they might use other letters that represent. So I could have used S because it's servings and maybe C for cost, but it's still the X value. It's still the first number in the table. It's still the number that gets graphed along the X axis. It's my independent variable. And same thing with the Y value. So let's look at a scenario on the next slide. Let's look at a situation where one variable depends on another. So here's my example. Tyler earns $5.50 an hour for helping his dad with yard work. To determine how much Tyler makes, he uses the equation E equals 5.5H, where E is Tyler's total earnings and H is the number of hours he worked. So you probably have noticed I haven't used X and Y here. So remember that other variables can be used in place of X and Y. So the H, which is when you look up here, the H would be my independent variable, the thing I can change, my X value, and what I get out, my output, my dependent would be E, the Y value. So you think about how you would graph those, okay? So when we think about this, Tyler can decide what is it he can change? Well, he can change how many hours he works. He can work 1, he can work 10, he can work nothing. He has control of it. So that is my independent variable. The thing he can't change is how much he gets paid per hour. So the amount he earns, that's the dependent. How much he's going to earn is all dependent on how many hours he works. So we already discussed this. The H value is my independent variable and the E is my dependent variable. So this is kind of just a short little thing going through using this new vocabulary. The idea of graphing and making the tables and the equations, we have already covered this in depth already. Just kind of reviewing it and putting some new vocabulary with it. make sure you do some of the other assignments and the Ed puzzles. I think that will really help kind of dig this in as well.